And spin her around a bit. And we'll do our last braid. Make sure that the top row is always a little bit ahead of the row below it. This way, the hair on top is always going to cover that bottom row. To save time, you can do all your needles before you start your client's hair. And now we're almost finished Michelle's top row. On the bottom row, we used 3 tufts of hair, and the middle and top row, we're using 4 tufts. The maximum I would recommend to use on anyone's braid is 5 pieces. When you start using more than 5 pieces, it really starts to get heavy and it can cause damage. I've added the darker color on the bottom and the lighter color on top. And so in total for the top, she has 4 tufts. 2 is going to go on each side. So usually when the tufts come, they usually have some thread that's hanging about 2 inches over. You want to cut that off a little bit, but don't cut too close to where the knot is, because if you cut where the knot is or any part of this tuft, the whole thing will fall apart. Because we want this to go almost all the way around Michelle's head, unlike the bottom row where you folded it in the middle, on the top row and the middle row, you're actually only folding about 1 inch to 2 from the end. You want to make sure the end that's not being folded is even, because sometimes the tufts come in different lengths. So it's a lot more difficult if the ends that aren't being folded aren't even. So now we're going to take a hair and fold it about 1 inch or 2. I'm going to just swing her around. And the folded ends will go at the front, and the other side will go right around. Now you start sewing the end to the end of the braid. You're sewing the folded end. Again, just making sure that that is flat. Now, after you've secured this side, now we're going to turn her around and do the other side. Again, you have 2 tufts. You have the darker color underneath, the lighter color on top. This isn't always the case. It really depends on the client's hair. But you have the end that is not folded is even. So now you're going to fold the uneven end about 1 to 2 inches. And you start sewing the uneven end to the front of the braid. making sure that the front is nice and flat. Now you have your two sides. What you want to do is wrap one around, and the other one is going to go on top of it, like this. So then you will clip, and then you start sewing again, making sure that you have all 4 pieces in your thread. The end of that piece of hair that was wrapped around, you want to make a couple of stitches in that exact area. So you're just going to pull it snug from underneath. And so this bottom one now is being attached. And we're almost out of thread. You usually want to have at least 3 needles. So this one's a little short now, so we'll grab another needle. It's already been threaded. We're going to wrap it around in the same area that we left off with our other one. Go in between. So now we have the 2 needles. And we're going to tie a knot, the 2 together, usually about 3 times. So now we will leave the shorter needle and we will continue moving along with the longer needle. And while you're sewing, it's very important to make sure that the extensions sit on top of the braid and not below them. We're almost done. So we just sew just past the loose ends. We've met up with the needle that was left. And we're going to tie these 2 needles together about 3 times. Now we can cut all the needles out. If you are working with multiple needles, go back and check to make sure that you haven't left any in the hair.